Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Microsoft 365 Business Boost Show. I am your host, Therman Trotman. I'm joined here by my co-host, Nick DeCourcy. Nick, what's going on?
Hey Therman, how's it going? I hear that you're
Great.
unhappy.
Listen, that's rare. You know what I'm saying? Because I
I
live my
know.
life. I live my life, you know what I mean, real joyous and all that. You know what I'm saying? I'm usually in a good mood, great mood even. And yes, I am unhappy, but I'm not alone. So I know I'm not, going crazy here. There's a lot of people also unhappy with me. If you would
Well,
like some details, the reason I'm unhappy is because what's going on with office.com. So if you are familiar, which I'm sure you are, office.com for years has been the home base for Microsoft 365 users. And what I mean by that is that when you go to office.com, you see your stuff, you know what I mean? Recent documents, mainly recent things you've been working on, and then the good old waffle menu or app launcher, depending on how you refer to it. It's the 9 dots in the upper left hand corner that you click to see all the apps that you can visit. Both of those are now gone and they've been replaced. Nick, can you guess what the theme is of the thing they've been replaced by?
this is a bit of an unfair question because I do know already, but
I do know you know.
I would say Microsoft 365 Copilot.
You're correct. As they are doing with everything, apparently. Everything is all about Microsoft Copilot. And look, I don't mean to be rude, but I don't like it. I don't think we're there yet. I think that Microsoft is doing something that they're known for, but now it's like, why are we still doing this? Like, we're in a different phase right now of business. You are mature in the things that you're offering. Like, you have some real competition on your heels. Like, let's operate a little bit differently than, hey, we have market share and we can do whatever we want. So, all right, I got a couple bullets here, Nick. Maybe about three that I just want to go through. The reason why this is confusing and upsetting to me. So, number one, it adds more clicks. And here's why this is frustrating to me, because as someone who provides solutions, one of the main things that if you have been in and around this space for a really long time, one of the main things you aim for is to reduce the amount of clicks that someone has to take an action. So maybe your MVP, the first product you provide to a customer, might have whatever amount of clicks that it has. When you first debuted it, you probably tried to keep the number of clicks low. That's in your first version. You just try to, make things easy for the customer. What you're really trying to do is solve the issue that they had prior to that. Once you've deployed and you now have your MVP out there, what you're doing, you kind of switch to a growth mode where you just make the thing better.
Yep.
One of the steps in making the thing better is reducing the amount of clicks. It's almost like is it faux pas? I'm not sure I'm using that correctly, but I think it's a faux pas to add clicks. So let's say something that was central to the app or solution that they're using took maybe about 5 clicks. In your next version, it's a W. It is a win if you can get that down to 1 or 2 clicks. That's like great. You know what I'm saying? Because you're making it easier for the customer to get what they have to get done. Now, when you used to visit office.com, you would highly likely already be logged in. So there's that. When you will go to office.com, if you start your day there, then you'll see you're literally 1 click away from all of the things that you need to get your hands on. Because like I said, it's all your recent stuff sitting there. They have now taken this away. They've taken it away and replaced it with a big search box. And in addition to the search box, as I mentioned, the waffle menu is now gone. So while that was 1 click on the waffle menu and then you see all your apps and then you make your next click, that is now gone. What you can do is apparently click, I believe, where it says apps, then you see all your apps, and then you can now take your app and pin it.
Yep.
So you can navigate to the app that you normally use and then pin it. So you can pretty much customize your home menu. So there's That's cool. I like that. You know what I'm saying? But um, it is very surprising to me that Microsoft, the size of what they're doing, the size of who they are and where they are, that they would do something like this. Now, before I get to my next two bullets, let me get your thoughts there, Nick. What do you think about this change? Where are you?
I'm not the biggest fan of it.
Mm,
Number one, I don't necessarily think that all of the new Copilot features that have been added into this experience are equally valid to be part of the homepage, for want of a better word. Um, and I don't particularly dislike the fact that it's changed. I mean, things do change, but I
hmm
think the way that it has been done, in that it's just been thrust upon everyone, um, it doesn't make any sense to me. Take a look at Outlook. It still has a little toggle switch that lets me go back to the old Outlook. Teams, for a very long time, when the new Teams came out, had a toggle switch that let me go back to the old Teams. Or you could select to in your organization to either use the old one or the new one for a period of time. The same with other
SharePoint too.
experiences. Like, I'm sorry?
SharePoint too. SharePoint is
Yeah.
modern. SharePoint has been out for a number of years, and
And you
you
can
can
still jump
still
back to Classic, yeah.
right
Now, some
exactly.
of that is to do with the fact that Microsoft hasn't deemed it necessary to move all the functionality from the old version to the new version. And so sometimes it is necessitated to move back to the old version, in the same
hmm
way that in Power Automate, it's sometimes necessitated to move back to the old version just
hmm
because the new version doesn't do everything that you want it to do. But
hmm
there is a lot of precedent across Microsoft's products for this idea that if we're going to do a big visual change, if we're going to radically change the user experience of this product, that whether you see the old version or the new version is for a period of time, either down to the choice of the user or down to the choice of the organization. So when it comes to the homepage for Microsoft 365, it seems like an extraordinary choice to decide that this is the time that you're not going to add a toggle switch to allow people to switch back to what they saw before.
Yeah, good point on the toggle switch. I didn't even think about that because it's rare that I'm a toggle switch kind of person. What I try to do is, even if you offer the toggle, I'm like, you know what? I'm going forward with this because it's going to become what it is eventually. And if my customers are going to be here, then I'd like to stay here, getting to know it, so I could
Mm.
talk to the customers and tell them what's going on. So, excellent point. I didn't even think about the toggle switch. But I would really like to know who's making this decision. You know, when something gets released uh, from a, I don't know, from a celebrity
Mm.
or from a major organization, you know it has to go through the wickets before
Mm.
it hits the public. For something like, I don't know, a YouTube video, we have to manage our own videos. Like, we record them, maybe we have an editor and it has, I don't know, two layers, maybe. It's usually just one layer because you might be editing your own video, and you publish it and release it to the rest of the world. These big ginormous organizations, you have to go through multiple layers before something hits the public. No one said, or no one of importance said, yo, you need to relax, do not release that. Like, why would
Mm.
you?
Mm.
How
Mm.
does it get here? I don't understand that. But my second point is the Copilot situation. I don't feel like Copilot is doing what Microsoft needs it to do. And so they've taken the route of, well, we're gonna force it on people, as opposed to, let's bring high quality solutions to the market and show people that this is valuable, and then go from there. They're going with finished or unfinished, high quality or not high quality.
Mm.
We don't care. Get it out there, bull in a China shop process, break it, you know what I'm saying? See how people break it, see what they come back with. We're going forward. I don't care. Just move forward with it. This strategy is highly effective in a lot of areas. In this situation, I don't think it's effective. I think it's making Microsoft look like they don't really have a good strategy, or like they're
Mm.
trying to catch up with what other people are doing. I think that it was very good on Microsoft's part to get with OpenAI when they first, was gaining some steam, get out there and then get Copilot out there and start doing that. other companies have come with their AI strategies and are now competing with Microsoft. It now looks, you can see what it looks like to compete with Microsoft when they're competing. Microsoft for a really long time, they didn't necessarily have to compete. They had market share. They have every flipping computer that you buy is a Windows computer. And then when you go work at a office, you're probably working with Microsoft tools. But this AI race, Microsoft has real competition. And in this situation, this is what it looks like. It's like they're like, it doesn't feel strategic. It just feels like, yo, get it out there and do whatever you got to do. So that's my second point here. It's very confusing. What are your thoughts on the strategic portion of, or the strategic, I guess, continual rollout of Copilot?
I think this idea that they're just thrusting the product on everyone and don't care whether people want it or not, I'm not sure that's the case. I think that what's probably going on is that the people who surround those who are making these types of decisions are probably rather unusual when it comes to their preferences for using these types of products. ChatGPT is a product that has the mass market, but it's a mass market that chooses to use it in the same way that Nike clothing has a mass market, but it's not for everyone. If you don't want to wear it, you'll go and buy something else. And that's fine. People will choose, like, I want to engage with AI, I'll go and use ChatGPT, or I'm interested in this, I'll go try it out. The point that Microsoft seems to miss, in my opinion, is that while there are lots of people who are very excited for Microsoft's products, I don't think that's their average user. Like, I think the average user of Microsoft technology uses it because it's what's on their computer that's given to them by work, and it's what they're allowed to use. And so it's mass market, but in an entirely different way of, you need electricity in your house. So you may really love your electric provider, or you may really hate them, but you don't get much of a choice. If you want electric, you have to use them. And that's the situation with Microsoft. So this idea of trying to keep up with the people who are really interested in using ChatGPT, I can see that there's value in that, but just taking the product that everyone uses and changing it in service of that type of user doesn't make a great deal of sense to me. And I think that Microsoft's leadership is operating in a bubble where they're hearing all the positives and they're dismissing the negatives because they think that the negatives are a technology problem that they can overcome. And I don't think they are. The negatives are a culture problem that the organizations deploying Microsoft 365 and Microsoft 365 Copilot need to overcome. And in that, Microsoft is hurting the potential to actually be successful with it, with each of these technology rollouts that they do in this rather haphazard way at this point.
Yeah. And speaking of ChatGPT, a lot of people throw around the term AI, but 9 times out of 10, when they say the words AI or the letters, whatever, when they say the phrase AI, they're talking about, most people today are talking about ChatGPT, which is a specific type of AI from one specific company that happened to be popular. So people are saying AI, but they don't even realize the vast, sea of solutions that really embody AI. People say AI and they're talking about generative AI from ChatGPT, which is a simple, call and response type thing with your chats. It's very simple. It's very easy. And I wish that Microsoft would have done that, because what they did is confuse people. They just have a whole bunch of stuff out there in the market that is not easy to follow or to see the value in. And it's hard to compare them with ChatGPT because that's not really, well, it doesn't feel B2B to me. It's not really, that's not a B2B thing. That's a B2C, where most people that I know that find the value from there, they're individuals. I don't hear companies talking about how they're knocking it out of the park with chat GPT or AI in general, which is where Microsoft is. Microsoft needs to knock it out of the park for businesses. So they really can't supply or, hold their standard against ChatGPT. That to me feels like an individual thing. How are you going to solve business solutions for businesses with AI? How do you do that? That's their real challenge. And I think business owners, business leaders, folks in the business industry are confused about how they can use AI to gain an advantage with their business. I don't even think that's a Microsoft specific thing.
No, I don't think it is. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're an end user, you're the person whose job it is to process the invoices that come in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it may be part of your interest to be like, how do we improve this? How do we engage AI? How do we do X? How do we do Y? But it may not. And 9 times out of 10, it isn't specifically going to be part of your job to do that. Like what separates average performers or low performers from people who knock it out of the park every day is often this having a level of interest in moving forward and developing and improving. And that's not everyone, and nor should it be everyone. Workplaces would be a complete nightmare if every single person was trying to reinvent the wheel of every single process to make them more efficient every day. So
There's some
I
organizations
think
that are like that right now.
that's the B2C versus B2B thing, right? And the problem with Microsoft's strategy right now is that with all of this AI, I feel like they believe that they're in this kind of B2C race. And I don't think they are. I think the consumer Copilot, there are some good features to it, but I think it's a distraction. I think the proposition that Microsoft put out in March of 23, where they first announced Copilot, Microsoft 365 Copilot, was compelling. I think most business leaders could probably get behind the things that Microsoft was talking about at that point. But in the execution of this, I think there's a risk that the end users, the consumers of this, are being turned off by not allowing their businesses to be the middleman of this transition. Like Microsoft needs all businesses to get on board with this, and you're not going to get businesses on board by simply forcing their users to see Copilot all the time. There's a bit of the puzzle that's being missed. However, I will say that there's now a website that Microsoft has where I think there's over 1,000 case studies of businesses that are using, whether it be Microsoft 365 Copilot or Copilot Studio or Azure AI Foundry or other AI tools that Microsoft has to improve processes or improve teams or improve their entire business. So there is real evidence out there that this stuff works. I just think that Microsoft is trying to get to the end of this race quicker than they have the capacity to do so, or their audience has the capacity to follow them.
Yeah, I agree. And I believe that is because they're in real competition. That is, I have seen over the years, as you have and everyone else, Microsoft has benefited from being first pretty much. You know what I'm saying? Like they were out there and they were there early to the point where a lot of their products for a very long time weren't, respectfully, they weren't that good. You know what I'm saying? And it was because what were you going to do about it? You could come up with the best competitor ever for PowerPoint, but what did it matter? You were not about to capture the offices and the market share that Microsoft had. So good luck. And even if you did, they're probably going to buy you or copy you. So I don't know what you were going to do in that situation, but things started to the more creators got their hands on the ability to make more apps and get more visibility, and as that picked up, you could see the shift in old school Microsoft to new school Microsoft. Things started to change, and right now I think that even after things have changed, what is really significant is that they're not out in front by themselves with this AI thing. They are in real competition with other major organizations, not some small, little company, major organizations, namely Google, who are giving them competition. So I think that when you operate from a place of, you have competition versus you kind of have a lead. You know what I'm saying? When you got a 2-3 lap lead, you run different. But when you see the other person is catching up on you, they done close some of those laps, you run different. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's what Microsoft is suffering from right now, because they it just seems like they're not clear. And as far as that B2C thing, the way that they can get clear is tackling something that they have tackled before. For instance, like not an end user's tool. So back to the B2C thing, right? Can you provide tools that everyone will get on their on their desktop and use to work at the organization? Yes, of course you can, no problem. But you also have provided things that only admins should touch, which get deployed to the whole organization. End users should not touch this. It might have been a bad idea. I don't know. I'm just throwing this out there. It might have been a bad idea to try to market Copilot as a end user thing while also being a business thing. Take it out of the hands of the end users and give it to the leaders and the admins of the organization and leaders and admins in IT. And what can they do? Can you offer up solutions to them that me as an end user, when I come into work, I just get those solutions? They're just available to me because a smaller amount of people have worked on these things and provided these things at the organization that I work at, versus, hey, everybody could touch it and anybody can start building agents. And to your point earlier about everybody trying to make some like unique solution, which is already a problem in organizations today. So I don't know. I think that the competition thing is what's messing with Microsoft, and also trying to make this an end user thing as opposed to just the leaders and the admins in IT providing something like servers. End users don't touch servers. They don't have to know anything about the server. None of that. You just come in and do your work, and I will monitor you from the server, manage your account from the server, get all my nice features and all these things that only me and a small amount of people know about. You just use. Copilot might have been better from that position as opposed to them giving me the ability to do the same thing that the IT leader could do. I don't know.
I don't think that's really the point of Copilot, though. To be honest, there are these extra tools that you can build, but that's been part of Microsoft's ecosystem for a very long time. I mean, every Microsoft 365 user has access to Power Automate. Every Microsoft 365 user has access to Power Apps. These things haven't been hidden. The agents thing might be a little bit more in your face in terms of create one, but actually if you compare that to like Teams apps or something like that, it's pretty much equivalent. And going back to that whole B2C versus B2B thing, think about the point where Microsoft has been most ubiquitous. Back in the days of like Windows 95 or Windows 98, Office 97, for example, you would have a computer at home that pretty much was exactly the same in terms of the software that ran on it as the one that you have at work. That was pretty common, right? I mean, if you were a big workplace, you might have been running on Windows NT, but there were lots of workplaces that were running on 95, 98 at that point, small businesses. So more likely you would go home and what you would have on your desk, a big desktop where you would do your schoolwork, you would do your personal finances, you'd be using exactly the same tools. Microsoft has done this before by making their business product so ubiquitous and so usable that it has bled into people's homes. Where they've not been successful is by saying, hey, we're going to have a completely separate consumer product. So far as I'm concerned, outside of arguably Xbox, they have never been successful in saying, we are going to have a consumer product. I mean, before Xbox, what would you go to? Encarta CDs? Like, I mean, I can't think of anything else that has been pointed at consumers. So, going back to March of 23, when they first announced Microsoft 365 Copilot, go back and watch that video. The demos that they gave, at least 25% of them were demos of things that you would never do at work. You know, your daughter's having a graduation party. You're not going to organise that at work. You're not going to send that from your work address. You're not going to have all the photos of your family on your work PC. They were clearly demonstrating Microsoft 365 Copilot. Not Microsoft Copilot, but Microsoft 365 Copilot being that business tool that is so good you want to take it home as well, in the model of Windows 95, Windows 98, Office 97, that model that's worked before. And they have deviated from that. They've deviated from that and created confusion. And personally, I think they would be better off going back to this idea of let's create a business product that is so good that people want to use it at home. And they're never going to get the market share that they did back in 1995 because of everything else that's around us. But that is the place that they're going to penetrate the best, in my opinion, versus this confusing message of consumer Copilot, business Copilot, security Copilot. You know, it's just confusing everyone.
Yeah, I agree. Even the people within the Microsoft community, it is confusing. The last bullet that I wanted to point out here about why I didn't like this change was the workarounds. So something that has been very common in the Microsoft world is workarounds. When your product didn't do the thing that seemed very obvious, then you had to be a little, creative with Microsoft's whatever Microsoft made available in that tool. Mm-hmm. You could get smart on something that only a small amount of people know about, which is now this is the workaround. So yeah, Microsoft didn't do it for us, so we got to do a workaround. A user shared this week something where they built the old office.com site. In other words, you can go to this site and it will show you, it will let you click into what used to be inside of the waffle menu.
Yeah.
Why does someone have to do that? There was a time in my life when I was like, I was okay with workarounds because I thought that was the way it was. I was very young, you know what I mean? And Microsoft was the majority of what I knew. So I'm like, oh, workarounds just make sense. And I took that to when, phones started dropping apps. I would do workarounds in apps because I'm just like, this is how it is. And then I realized that this is not the way it is. It doesn't have to be that way. You know what I'm saying? So why are we now doing the workaround thing? Just make it available and make it good. Mm-hmm. What you if me and you and other people in the Microsoft community know about these cool solutions that people have to build because Microsoft didn't build them, I know that Microsoft knows about them. So why are you not incorporating that? Like, please help us out here and stop having us to go with the workarounds, which takes time out of what we're doing to go create these solutions that should already be built in. It's very frustrating. So yeah, that's my last one there is these workarounds. Workarounds are cool sometimes, but if I don't got to do it, then I'd prefer that. Just make it available and make it good.
I don't think the issue, though, is the change. I think the issue is the process of the change. That there was no opportunity for, I never saw this new interface in a preview environment. I never saw it in targeted release before it just started dropping on people's desktops. There was no time for IT pros or adoption managers or whoever it may be in the organizations that buy this product to work out how this change was going to work before the change happened. This comes back to adoption. Adoption is a process that Microsoft cannot thrust upon us. It has to be something, if it's going to be done well, then it has to be done by the customer. And the customer is not the people sitting in front of the computers. The customer is the person who decides we're going to use Microsoft 365 in our organization. And so unless you get those people on board with this is going to be the process, this is going to be a major change, we're going to give you a run up to this major change, we're going to give you the opportunity to see what this change is all about, we're going to give you the opportunity to try it, we're going to give you the opportunity to pilot it, and once you're happy with it, we're going to give you the ability to roll it out into your organization when you're ready. Unless Microsoft is doing that, it's not even following its best practices. Like, it has a set of best practices around adopting its products, and it's not following them. Such is the rush to get this stuff out. And I think
Which is not even. I'm sorry. That's not even again, not even specific to Microsoft. That's just when you're providing solutions. That's just basic, change management, if you will.
Exactly, and it's just complete misfire of understanding who the relationship is with and who gets it in the neck if everyone is unhappy. And I'm actually really surprised at this point that we're a couple of weeks into this and a toggle hasn't appeared on that homepage to turn it back. Because I'm extremely surprised that some very large customers aren't calling people at Microsoft and saying, why the heck can none of my employees find where OneDrive is? Like, these kinds of issues that come up. And I think it shows how forcefully Microsoft is charging down this path, that hasn't happened. Because I would be highly surprised if those calls haven't taken place. And we saw how quickly something like Outlook, it was announced that the old Outlook would be disappearing. And I think we've got like 10 years on it now that it's not disappearing because people were up in arms about that. And that was exactly the same customers who have the power to make the phone call and say, hey, we have 100,000 licenses and we're not very happy.
You know what? Maybe because of the use of Outlook. Wow, you just made me think about something. What if... Damn, there's probably somebody who was listening to this episode and probably thought this and was like, y'all are not thinking about this. Because what if the beef with Outlook is because damn near everybody uses Outlook? That's your email. So you have a large user base of people up in arms. What if Office.com and that home screen wasn't even being utilized like that?
No one uses it.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. What if there's like 5 people?
Well, you say that, but think about it. Business Basic, E1, and a whole bunch of other licenses don't even have access to installed apps, right? So there's a whole class of Microsoft licenses that if you're going to use Microsoft 365, you have to do it through the web interface. And so I don't know how many of those licenses they sell, but it's definitely more than 5. I would imagine it's probably got a whole bunch of zeros after that 5. So there is an audience that has been inconvenienced by this that's outside of people like us, that are interested in this stuff.
But you have to use Office.com to know that, well, besides the waffle menu is across the whole thing. But
well, the waffle menu is still there everywhere but Office.com.
So then, yeah.
If you go to Word Online, it's still there.
So if I start my day at Outlook, or I start my day, what's another good, maybe SharePoint, I'm not starting my day at Office.com and mad about what they changed there. Yes, I use the web interface, but rarely do I go to Office.com because I've saved my favorite to where I go really every day, which is Outlook. I start from Outlook. You know what I mean? Maybe I think that's something to consider. I didn't think about that.
Maybe, but I mean, think of it another way. If making this change isn't going to get more eyes on it, then what would be the point in doing it? Like, Microsoft is perfectly capable of standing up another web service to do this and keeping Office.com as it is. The only rational explanation for making such a drastic change is because you think a lot of people are going to benefit from it.
Yes. And you want to get Copilot in front of their face because you put that search engine, you put that search field at the top of everything. You're prioritizing that search field, telling me this is how you find your stuff by going to this search field. Like, you're trying to...
Copilot entry, I mean, there's a separate search now. So you have a search tab and you have a Copilot chat tab. By default, it goes to the chat tab, but there is a separate search tab. One of my issues with this is I don't really understand why there is a separate search tab. I mean, if you look at ChatGPT, you just click on the fact that you want to search, and the ChatGPT interface gives you the ability to search. So this idea that you need to go to a homepage that's supposed to be to the Copilot homepage, and then you have 6 different things that you can do there that are all different to Copilot, that foundationally doesn't make sense to me. And so I think it's this confusion of why make one amazing product when we can make 100 okay ones. Some of them are maybe good. I mean, there are good products in there, but I did a video this week about notebooks. I don't see the point. I foundationally don't see the point unless it's to compete with ChatGPT. Of they have projects over there. The Create tab, I don't see the point. Like, I think it's it's interesting on its own, but in the context of this is a Copilot feature, well, it's not a Copilot feature. It's like 5 different creation features, and all of them work differently, and none of them work the same as Copilot. And so, what is it? Like, it's not Copilot who came up with this. Like, it's a perfectly nice feature. The people who made it did a good job. It works well. But in the grander ecosystem of we're building an ecosystem around Copilot, it makes utterly no sense. A search tab, search will be coming. This search experience will be changing. Why? Why do you need that? Why do you need a separate search? Copilot already has access to all that information. You need to tell Copilot that you're searching. You need a mechanism to tell Copilot, for this I'm trying to search, not have a completely separate place to do it. Conceptually, the entire new app makes no sense to me, because they seem to have tried to change Copilot into ChatGPT, but ignoring all of what makes ChatGPT feel like a simpler place to work than Copilot does.
Yeah, see, and that again is to my point about competition. That is what people do when they're in competition. When you are doing a thing and you think you're doing a pretty good job, but you see someone else, you look over. Maybe you're running track, you look over. Maybe you're swimming and you've seen that meme of Phelps. I think he was looking forward and other people are looking over. I don't remember, but when you're looking over, when you're glancing at your competition, you might think, oh, wait, maybe I could do a little something different because I could see it's working for them. Stay focused. You look at your competition in a way where it's like, hey, I heard they're doing great things over there. So what's their final result? What they do third quarter? What did we do third quarter? You can look at it that way, but stay focused on what you're doing. If you're that good, if you really are providing a great service and you got your customer service to back it, and your marketing department can speak about what you're doing properly, you're good. But when you start doing things like what you're talking about right here, Nick, that to me tells me you are not used to dealing with competition, and it has you flustered. So you start making these wacky decisions. So I don't know, man. I personally, I'm sticking with the competition thing. I think they're not used to being in this position, and they just hit 50 years. They're a $1 trillion company. CEO's doing his thing. We got a lot of good things going on here, but other companies are on their heels. And we're going to see here in the next few years how they handle the heat. You know what I mean? Because I don't think they're doing a great job of handling the heat. Respectfully. I don't want Microsoft to come for me.
I don't think they're going to come after you, Therman. I mean, there's a good selection of products there. I think the issue is just the positioning, the communication. Who are they communicating with? And really getting serious about the fact that all of their support services, like support for adoption, they have a fantastic adoption website. Like, I think this is different to so many other tech providers in terms of the depth they go to, the amount of help that they'll provide, the amount of engagement you can have with Microsoft, the fact that they invest a lot in this stuff. Like, that is the special sauce of Microsoft. And despite having those really good people who are really focused on helping a community of users get the best out of these products, I think that the release cycle, the way they release stuff, the way they announce stuff, the marketing hype about this stuff keeps making that group trip over their own feet because they are not walking the walk.
Yeah, I'm with you. We'll see. Maybe Nick, you got to put in a call to Microsoft and get them on the phone. You know what I'm saying? And then
I don't think my tenant has enough users, enough user licenses for that to make any difference whatsoever.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, listen, Nick, before we get out of here, tell folks where they can find you and what you got going on or what you got coming up here in the next couple of weeks.
Head over to LinkedIn. I'm there every day.
Nice.
I also, are you interested in adopting Microsoft 365 Copilot? You can see how complicated it is. We've been talking about this for nearly an hour, and we've only brushed the surface of it. If you're interested in doing that, I do have my Microsoft 365 Copilot adoption package on my website. If you need some help with the technical adoption or user training or coaching for your executives, then go take a look at that and check it out. If you're interested in working with me, get in touch. How about you, Therman?
Well, I do the same thing, except I focus on one specific product inside of the Microsoft 365 suite. That is called SharePoint. And I can build your intranet, configure your intranet, and train your users on how to use it. I've been doing it for a really long time. I really enjoy doing it. And I think you could benefit from using SharePoint in an optimal way, especially as the runway for AI shortens. You want to get your stuff together before you get there. So, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm taking a more scaled back approach to LinkedIn. So always, but still, find me in there on the DMs. Just shoot me a DM and I will get back to you on LinkedIn. So at minimum, do that. And that's it. That's all I got. Nick, it's been great.
All right, until next time.